first get sweet casualty. Open your eyes, you're losing control. Open your eyes, put down the phone. Conditioned by misinformation. It's just the media telling us lies. Decipher fiction from the truth. Society's slow and tragic demise. Open your eyes, you're losing control. Open your eyes, put down the phone. Everyone's got their fucking opinion.
What's happening? Oi! Oi, we're back. Feels like we just didn't we just do one of these? Good to see everybody. I'm excited about today's show, and I hope that you are too. Some of the old school thumpers coming out of the woodwork. What's up, Frankie? Too far. Good to see you. There you go. What's happening in the UK, John? What's going on? Speaking of old school thumpers, what's up, Larry Kelly? There you go. Paulie down in Florida. Hey. Good luck down there. You're gonna need it. Heavy duty stuff heading your way down there in Florida. Hey, Pat. What's up, brother? What do you say? Tear gas represent. Sorry you couldn't make the show on Saturday, but there will be other ones. Robert Hogg in Scotland. What's going on? All right. That said, what else? Everybody going to behave themselves today? I hope so. There you go. Speaking of behaving yourselves, what's up?
Yo.
What did you make, lighters?
I made a lighter. This is for my cigar, yeah.
You made lighters so people could light things on fire.
We have a big arsonist following.
Yeah, it's like, being we're sort of in that groove today. It's like the band Conservative Military Image. What do they have? They have like razor blades or box. They sell They sell box cutters as like official
merch.
Conservative Military Image merchandise.
I saw that on the table and I was like, are we really seeing that? Yeah.
I think not only that, they make box cutters and they make something else. I don't remember. I was like, damn.
Hey, listen, you got to appeal to your audience,
Sure. You know what it sort of reminds me of, and I just recently wrote about this in the book I'm working on. Is like when Yankee Stadium used to have Bat Day.
They still do that, and they give you this great little bats. I have like 3 of those.
Well, they give you the like the Planet of the Apes, like the truncheon, right? Like, it's like, but I remember as a kid,
the full size one.
Yo, because I grew up as a teenager in the Bronx. I mean, they might as well just call it Weapon Day. It's like, come on down to Weapon Day, and like, because I remember coming out of the game and just. It got set off, and like people were fighting with bats, and I was holy!
That's like 20,000 bats. Like,
come on down! It's Yankee Stadium Weapon Day.
I'm waiting for the Met game. It's brass knuckle days at the Shea Stadium.
Paulie says, imagine selling real box cutters at the merch booth at clubs in the 80s or 90s. Welcome to L'Amour's. Well, welcome to L'Amour's, and pick up your box cutter on the way in.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Paulie, be careful out there.
CMI knows their target market.
Oh, man.
Hey, I happen to be a CMI fan. I like that band a lot.
Yeah, me too. Well, you know what? Incendiary Device should give out hand grenades.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Yep. There you go. Hey, funny, I don't know how RS sees this kind of stuff, but did you see that Staten Island got their first new trains in like 50 years?
Are they graffitied already?
No, well, they're like the top of the line trains. I saw it on the news this morning, and Rochelle was like, Staten Island's got new trains. How about replacing these hunk of junk trains we have here in the city? I'm like,
hey, we got the M9s. We got the M9s.
Yep. Well, that said, let's. Hey, DD Shimon, what's up? Yeah, everybody likes the grenades. The thing about selling grenades at shows is it might be a little bit different. It might be a little bit difficult to travel cross state lines with things that look like hand grenades. You know.
You should get little squeeze toys, like dog toys.
Wait.
That's actually not a bad
I'm
idea.
all the hand grenade you need. Right. Hey, Dawson, what do you say? Hey, here we go. Let's pull the pin and run. Yep. Thanks for breaking up my day with a new show. You know, Wednesday shows are rare. But they happen every now and then. You know.
We gotta do what we gotta do. The good thing about Wednesday shows
Hey,
that means we know we got a Sunday thing coming.
You know what? Speaking of Sean Brennan, guitar player of Incendiary Device, I got to give you props on this flyer, my man. This Redwoods dropped off the bill, Faded Line stepped in, and you made this incredible flyer. I think this is one of the greatest flyers you've ever made.
I thank you so much. You know what? The bowling alley. It was just perfect inspiration, you know.
It's great. It's great. And you know, and this is coming from a guy that is so friggin' sick of you and these AI flyers, right?
I know.
But then you pulled this one out of the hat. I got to give it up. You pulled it out of the hat. Really nice, really great flyer. It's really great.
Thank you. And you know what? I'm happy for Faded Line because those guys are really good. I'm happy to see them jump in on that.
And they're somewhat local. And you know, Monster plays drums, and you know, it's and you know who lives in Middletown, New York?
No.
Sean Brennan, guitar player of Incendiary Device.
Emmy Award winning Sean Brennan.
Emmy Award winning, 3-time Emmy Award winner Sean Brennan, who plays in Incendiary Device.
Wow. While he's on stage, does he have somebody holding the Emmys, like on the side of the stage?
You know, my dad won an Oscar, and he didn't even go to the ceremony.
Is he like? He's like Marlon Brando.
Yeah, he's like, you know, I was busy. And then me and your mother were watching it on TV, and we won. I was like, what?
Could you imagine? That's crazy.
Is the show at a bowling alley? Yeah, it's at a bowling alley, and they have a pinball machine, a vintage pinball machine arcade. Is this your birthday show, Chucky? You coming up? Is that DB Cooper in the back there? Hey, there he is, Faded Line.
Nice.
Yo, Jeff, I'll cut you some slack. The call went out. You guys grabbed it. You stepped up, and now you're playing.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Just do me this favor, Jeff. Don't suck. All right? That said, let's do photo of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's just jump into this one. Let's be, you know, but here's photo of the day. You know what? Let's not cha-cha around here. Let's take some guests. What do we got here? Anybody know what this is? Anybody know what this ensemble is on stage? Let's see. Right answers only, please. Is it the Wailers? Is it the Wailers? Close. Is it the New Homies on the Block? All right. Okay. Is it the Wailers? Is it the Wailers? Close. It is not the Wailers, but it is close. Is it Toots? I think Toots passed away. I don't think Toots and the Maytals is playing anymore. Is it Steel Pulse? It is not Steel Pulse. Is it Keanu Reeves and the Vandellas? Is it NWA? Is it the We Are the World tryouts? Kind of funny.
That's kind of good. I like that one.
Yep. Okay, here we go. Chris Hoffman says, that's all of the Marley Brothers for the first time in many years on stage together. And yes, it's Ziggy. It is the Marley Brothers. Is it a Marley reunion? Explain to us what this is.
Okay, this is the five. Well, apparently, Bob had 11 children, from what I recall. This is the big five. This is, if I can remember, Ziggy, Damien, Kaimani, I can't remember the other two right now. Help me out, people.
I don't know.
Ziggy Marley, Damian Marley, Kaimani Marley. Two more Marleys. There's 5 brothers up there, and what they did, what I was really happy about, is that this is at the Forest Hills, and you know when you hear something like this advertised.
Oh, Julian, Stephen, Damian, Julian.
Yes, thank you, Stephen. I think is it Stephen or Stephen? Whichever. Anyway, what was cool is that I was worried it was going to be they would each come out one at a time, and then maybe at the end come out together. But what they did.
Raul. I think that just happened a week ago, right?
This is about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, 2 weeks ago.
And
what's up, Raul?
And
good to see you, buddy.
From the opening track to the closing track, they did all the Bob Marley classics, and every single guy took a verse in every single song. So they all sang. And you realize how really talented all 5 of them are, and how they all have little pieces of their dad.
You know,
and,
I saw the clip you sent me of them doing Get Up, Stand Up, and it was really good.
They really, and they did, you know, I think they sprinkled a couple of solo hits in there from themselves, but overall, it was just a phenomenal show. In fact, they did Crazy Bald Heads, which is one of my favorites.
We're going to chase them crazy bald heads out of this town.
And but they put on just a fantastic show, and the band was great. And
did you go, Raul? Raul, did you see this? That looks cool.
It was really, really, because you know what it is? Had it been just one of them or 2 of them, I might not have been pulled in. But when I saw all 5 of them, I said, I feel like I need to see this show.
Sure.
And it was so worth it. And it was a really, I hope they put like a live album out of it or something, because I really enjoyed it.
You know, I mentioned, I think I mentioned this on a show recently. I think that I was good friends for a while. We did a bunch of things together. When I directed this film, when I did Urban Street Bike Warriors, right? Which was a huge extreme sports film. This was up until the one I did after that, Black Sheep Squadron. This was like the biggest film that documented the street bike scene. And one of the crews was the Miami Warriors. You could see on the box. One of the crews in the film was Miami Warriors. And one of the guys we highlighted in the film was Bob Marley Jr. And
wow,
the one non-musical Marley brother, right? And he looks a lot like his dad.
Oh, for
right?
sure. Yeah.
So this is me and my brother. I mean, this is back in 2001, maybe. I think 2001 we shot this in Miami. But you know, for a while we were tight. He goes by Robbie Marley, but he's Bob. You know, he's Bob Marley Jr. You know,
and apparently another brother was actually in the NFL, from what I heard.
Is that right?
And then there was one brother, I think Rohan, was actually married to Lauryn Hill.
Wow.
So yeah, there's 11 in total. I mean, Bob was fertile.
Yeah. Well, listen,
Bob was spreading the love.
There you go.
One love, 11 kids. But you know, great show. And you know what I love is that reggae seems to be so accepted in punk and in hardcore. Like reggae is one of those things that even the hardest guys love reggae.
Well,
you know, you need
we're talking a little bit about skinhead culture today, and
you know,
after I moderated the ska book, the ska history of ska and two tone.
Yep.
I've learned quite a bit lately about
Rocksteady, you know.
Yeah, how everything kind of came together, you know. So
that's right.
That said, oh, here you go. Rohan was the football player.
Yes.
Oh, he played with The Rock. Is that right? He played with Dwayne Johnson.
Oh wow!
You know?
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yep. All right. That said, I will
get to it.
Thank you, and you are free now to go back to work and earn a living.
Free to move about the cabin.
You're free to move about the cabin. All right, I'll talk to you later. There you have it. the hardcore shutterbug, Steven Messina. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. We are sponsored by the Texas Silver Rush. I keep on, Debo, I know you're watching. I keep on wanting to say New York Hardcore Comics, the Texas Silver Rush, DTFM Vinyl, Generation Records, 126 Hardcore Clothing, and Mad Vintage. They buy, sell, and collect band shirts, primarily hardcore. The DIY operation was started and is operated by a hardcore kid who just loves collecting and eventually got into the realm of vintage band shirts. They are always looking to buy out collections to either keep, sell, or trade. New shirts added daily at www.madvintage.com and posted on Instagram. Dig deep into that closet of Chazarai and reach out to them. Help me help you, Mad Vintage. That said, let's clear the deck. What the heck? And let's bring our guest on. Let me get my intro. Let's make sure everybody's okay in there. Here we go. Today's guest, hold on. Boom. Today's guest is an author hailing from New York City. He was the youngest member of the infamous Sunset Skinhead crew, named after their neighborhood, Sunset Park, Brooklyn. His journey in the New York hardcore scene on the streets and clubs of New York ultimately led him down a path to faith, and his life has never been the same since. Here today to celebrate the release of his book, Brooklyn Skinhead, a memoir, one man's journey from fear and self-hatred to love and faith, please welcome, coming at us from Hackettstown, New Jersey, Mr. Lou Morales. Hey, man. Unmute yourself. You're muted.
Hey, everybody. What an intro.
Hey, welcome, Lou. Welcome.
Thanks for having me on. And
yeah,
yeah,
I'm excited. I'm excited you're here. How's life and how's things in New Jersey with your lovely family?
well, it's getting cool now. We're starting to see the leaves change. You know, we have kind of like I was telling you earlier, we kind of surrounded by farms, but we're in the main part of town, so it's beautiful out here. And but yeah, you know, a couple of days a week I'm in the city, so I still get my my fix, my city fix. And,
your taste of city life.
yeah.
I enjoyed the book very much. It had some very interesting twists and turns, and some of your old pals are showing up. You know, Frankie Too Far, and
Yeah,
you know,
I saw Chucky.
and Chucky.
Yeah,
you know,
saw Chucky.
Yep. So there you go. Let's bounce the ball back and forth, but let me kind of start with, you know, why now for the book? What inspired you, you know, at this point to sort of get it done and get it out there? And then we'll work back to the beginning, but why now for the book?
Well, the book has been kind of a process. I started it back in 2013, and I had read another book by another author who was part of the scene, and I just thought, well, you know, I've got these experiences as well. Let me just put them down on paper and see, you know, how do you tell that story? And I think I got around 80 pages, and I just found that trying to dig back all those years to try to remember certain things, it was very difficult, you know, because of some of the things that I've been through. And so I put it down for a number of years. Actually, would pick it up, you know, put in a couple of chapters.
Did you write it? Did you do it in the traditional way? Were you literally at the keyboard, or did you dictate it, or like how was?
No, I typed it.
You typed.
I typed it. I just and I wanted it to have.
You just grinded it out. You grinded.
Yeah.
It.
I just wanted it to have a personal feel, and I wanted it to be a narrative, really. And you know, because you can relate, you know, anytime you read something like that. I know for myself, that's what I gravitate towards.
Sure.
And so I put it down, and then over the last couple of years, you know, entering midlife, and then the big transition that we had, coming back to the States after living overseas for many years, I was just kind of going through a lot. And it just felt like an urgency. I wanted to put the book out. I knew that just seeing people passing away um, yeah, and just getting older myself and wanting to process this whole thing, these events.
Sure.
And so I reached out to an editor about a year and a half ago, and she read through it, and I was still missing chapters. There was still
Mm,
like 3 or 4 chapters there was like a lot of stuff missing. It was just a data dump, right?
mm.
Building on what I had done. And yeah, so she encouraged me. She said, put it out there, and so many things started to happen from then on, in the last year and a half. But I just kind of was going at it, just trying to like fill in the blanks, remember things, and um, yeah, just trying to flesh this whole thing out, and yeah, so it was kind of, obviously it's very personal, it's painful, and
Yeah.
some of it, and but I during the process I realized that yeah, it wasn't all bad. I think that my memory was, and when I left the scene, I was just kind of lock, stock, and barrel. I never looked back, and I just
Mhm.
kind of like I put it in a box and I left it somewhere.
Interesting. Yeah.
And when you hit midlife, you start kind of you know start processing things differently. And I just was like, I want to get this out there. I want to put it out there.
What was I'm assuming, because I'm doing something somewhat similar, and what I do is somewhat similar here with the show. Uh, was it therapeutic to a certain extent to sort of to sort of go through the creative process?
Yeah, big time,
Yeah.
big time. I think that you know just being able to articulate some of the more difficult things. I mean, there's still obviously things that have been left out. I just couldn't put everything out there. Um, and yeah, just kind of digging back. I found moments where I had to just kind of sit on the sofa with my laptop and just close my eyes and just kind of like let things pass a little
Sure.
bit. It was a bit difficult, and but yeah, of
Yeah.
course. I mean, it was you're putting it out there. Your family's going to see it. Your kids, your siblings.
Yeah.
So that's tough.
Yeah. Yeah. I had interesting you should mention that, and we're going to get into your background a bit, but interesting you should mention that, because in making my book, I always working on it, I always feel like, ooh, family, kids, like dad, like I feel like I was sort of like, I don't know if if it's time yet to sort of to put it out there. It is. I struggle with that a little bit. It's
Right.
but but that said, tell us, how did you come up? Where did you grow up? And give us your background as a young person.
So I'm 50. I'm going to be 51 in December, and so I grew up in the late 70s, early 80s down in Sunset Park, Brooklyn,
Mhm.
and so that's on the NR line. And yeah, we came up. As a kid over there, we grew up in right down the block from the park, which was awesome. But we lived in a gang-infested neighborhood. That was our backdrop. We had gangs. New York City was kind of back then. It was kind of gritty and rough, and so we had Sunset Park was infamous. I mean, you could find articles from the 1970s in the New York Times online about it.
So excuse me,
Yeah,
Sunset
go ahead.
Park. Sunset Park, um, uh, aka Gunset Park, right?
Sunset Park. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, just
Um,
as a kid growing up in a different borough. Oh,
right.
Sunset Park, Gunset Park. I mean, that was
Sunset Park.
and was the neighborhood primarily Hispanic?
Yeah, so it was a working class before the Hispanics came in like the 60s. It was Puerto Ricans predominantly. It was
Yeah.
Norwegian, Irish, and so all these people kind of migrated. They came in. So when I was growing up, there was predominantly Puerto Rican, and then as I got older, we had Dominicans coming in, more Mexicans.
Sure.
So it was a kind of a mix, and it was just a really, it was a working class neighborhood.
Was it
Typical
scary?
Brooklyn.
Was it scary as a kid? Was it a scary place, or was just is it what this is my environment? And was it a scary, threatening place growing up, or was it just like I said, this is just the world I'm in?
Well, I think one of the things that I found that, as an adult looking back and even like just the way I think, the way I process things, I realized, you learn to adapt to the environment that you're in.
Sure. Absolutely.
So, when danger's popping off, even as a 6 or 7 year old kid, something's going to happen, or and then you go on into your teen years, it's just this kind of prevalent vibe or mood. So yeah, it was in some aspects it was scary. I mean, my mom would take us shopping up to Fifth Avenue, which was the main drag, and you'd see some of these guys on the street corners, with their leather jackets and their Civil War hats and their MC boots, and they were packing. These guys walk around with sawed-off shotguns in their jackets,
Yeah.
all sorts of stuff. So it was tense. It was scary. I mean, I was 6 years old when I first, I saw somebody get shot at.
Yeah.
Waiting for my mom in front of a hardware store. They were arguing over a bike, and one guy pulls out, whatever, a 22. It sounded like a firecracker, and just point blank and shoots, and two guys go running in opposite directions. And I'm kind of like scratching my head, not realizing, how close I was to, whatever it was, this danger, and that's the kind of thing that we were used to.
And I think it's makes sense to mention that you grew up in a single parent home.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just your mom.
Yeah. I think, I didn't unpack a lot of her life.
Yeah.
In the book, I think there were just some things that I just needed to leave out.
Yeah.
Because, single mom raising kids in the 80s, we're on public assistance. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
She had come from the island of Puerto Rico with her siblings to Chicago. So you just imagine the culture shock coming from such a beautiful place to the south side of Chicago in the 60s. And then she left on her own to come to Newark, New Jersey, and then Brooklyn.
Right.
So that couldn't have been easy. So that was kind of her backdrop, just trying to raise these kids in such a unfriendly environment. I think that was, single parents, just, she went through a lot. I put her through a lot.
Sure. Growing up, what was there a soundtrack to your youth early on? Like what kind of music was in the air for a young person like you growing up in Sunset Park, Brooklyn?
Well, we had, it's Sunset Park, so it's salsa, it's disco, and it's hip hop, right?
Yeah.
And so we kind of, you hear all that stuff. Even today, it's summertime in New York City. You hear the cowbell outside of somebody's window. It's familiar. Yeah. But I remember when I was a kid, we didn't have MTV or anything like that. But we had a pirate radio TV station. It was like U68 or something like that.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
You remember that?
Yes, of course.
And it would be the same videos on repeat. Yeah. It would be like Rock the Casbah, the Wall of Voodoo and Eurythmics and all. And I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. I would watch it every day, and I love that kind of music. So I think that kind of set me up for the kind of music that I would be listening to like a year, 2 years down the road.
Right.
So when I was 12, then, me and my friends got into heavy metal, which in a Puerto Rican neighborhood, it's like, that's white people music,
Yeah.
Devil worshippers.
Yeah. And according to my homework, at 12 years old, you got a job at the local video rental store and bought a $50 stereo from Sam Goody. For those out there that remember Sam Goody, and the first thing you bought on cassette was this.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting, like you said, for a 12-year-old Hispanic kid, in Sunset Park. Black Sabbath, Born Again. Tell us about, like, this was the first thing you bought. This was your music, and give us a little bit on this.
Yeah, so we had this little record store on 48th Street, and there'd be a guy DJing out of a booth, and so I just, I went up there, and just some of the money that I was making, I bought this tape, and it was like this whole new world opened up for me. I love the music. Um, Maybe because I'm this active kid from the city, it just kind of like the beats and all that stuff kind of got me going. And, that's what I started listening to, me and the guys before we became the Sunset Crew, when I was hanging out with the boys, Rich and Heck and Ed and stuff. This is what we were kind of
Right.
listening to.
Was that Little Fab and Darby? That was kind of like your first little crew there.
Yeah. Darby was a kid. I actually didn't meet him until I became a skinhead. Actually, he came a little bit after, about a year after that. But he was a former graffiti writer who went to school with my brother actually, and he became a squatter down the Lower East Side, and
Wow.
we started hanging out. So it's kind of wild hanging out with my brother's friends, and hanging out in the C squats and stuff, and
Sure.
yeah.
Early on, and I quote, for me, music was just sort of glue that held our group together. It wasn't until years later that I realized I was always the youngest kid in the group, but I was always accepted. I belonged. And that was something precious and rare for a kid like me. Could you give us a little perspective on that?
Well, I think the way I see it, every generation, every generation of young people has kind of like a desire to fit in, to kind of, matter, I guess, whatever in ideology or just feelings. And so I think that, I'm no different in that respect. I was no different. I was just looking to belong. I just kind of, because of the difficulty of how we grew up, it was hard for me to connect. I think that I didn't have a lot of confidence, and I didn't have, just a lot of hope even. So to be able to kind of hang together with a group of guys and to have something in common that we liked, that we gravitated to, I guess started to really change, the way I was feeling about myself, or the fact that, I actually belong to something. And I think that's what most of the young people want, is they just want to belong. They want to matter and have a voice that's heard. And that's what this group of guys was to me. That's what the music was,
Yeah, and music, is a powerful thing. It rallies people and it ties people together. It's the reason we're here today doing this, and there's a lot of communities and cultures sort of music is the tie that binds them together. So yeah. So Javier Carpio, does he come into who commonly known as Saab?
Saab,
Is Saab a kid that was a part of the neighborhood early on, and
so we used to call him Cito when he was younger, and he
Cito
Cito Cito.
Cito.
Javier, yeah, that's what they called him on the street before he became a metalhead and and then a skinhead.
Yeah.
So he grew up a block down from us, and he would pass our block to go up to the Sunset Park to the pool and stuff. And we used to bug him and stuff. And then, about a year after we were like listening to metal and stuff, he kind of came back on the scene, except that he had grown. He's like really tall, and he's got, he's got a head shaved, and he's got a flight jacket on, and he's talking about us. And,
did he have the Brutal Truth tattoo already?
No, he hadn't gone there yet. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that, man.
Yeah. I remember. I remember his play. I remember his place on that street.
Yeah.
I was there a bunch of times, and his room. That was like it was like
the horror masks everywhere.
It was like something out of like Valhalla. It was like a dungeon.
Yeah. And he used to just bang those chords out. His poor mom in the other room, he'd just like be back there practicing with his speakers. I mean, he get loud. I knew his brother and his sisters growing up. They were all older. So we knew the whole family. Yeah. And so Saab was the one that introduced us to this whole thing. And he had those little monster masks all over in his collection.
He loved horror movies. He loved, he loved horror movies, and he loved really intense music.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right, man. So
That's
yeah,
right, Jim. That's right, Jimmy. The room was painted black when I was there in '93 with horror figures everywhere. Absolutely. Now, did Saab? Is it right that he bring you into the city to your first hardcore show?
I seem to remember. I think we went to Animal Hall first. That was our first show.
Okay.
And
sure.
that was freaking crazy. I mean, I'm a 13-year-old kid. And so we kind of went down to Park Slope to see this, and it's a biker hall, man. There's like these really big bearded scary guys. I'm just like this skinny little kid.
Yeah.
But it was also exciting once the bands came on. We had. I seem to remember it was Breakdown, Sheer Terror.
I don't think this might not be the exact show, but this sort of sets the table for the vibe,
Yeah, this was before Marauder, actually. Yeah, it was.
Right.
So we kind of like rocked up there, and I'm kind of like, what are we doing, man? Like, it was the only show that I'd ever been to there. Never went back. Hey, there goes Rocco.
There goes Rocco from American Eagle.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
So
they're coming out of the woodwork for you.
Yeah,
bro.
big time.
Go
on. Of course.
Go on.
So yeah, we kind of went there, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like there was this kind of dance floor, and then there was this, the band was right there, like you could touch them.
Yeah.
It was very it was very personal, I guess. That's how the shows have always been, at least in these smaller venues. And I think that kind of attracted me, though. The idea that you can kind of be right there and rubbing elbows with the band members and stuff. And it was, for me, it was risky, but it was, that was kind of what opened the door for us, I guess, to be a part of that.
I can relate as a young teenager going to see, a band and feeling that the band and the audience were really connected. That was very powerful for a young person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Rocco, if you have the flyer, send it to me on Facebook. I want to see it. I'll post it. Send it to me on Facebook Messenger if you have it. So Animal Hall, things start kind of popping. You kind of hang it. You're starting to run with the crew, and really, really interesting. Was it soon after that the sort of the Sunset Crew formed, and with the other guys, and then you guys kind of planted that flag, so to speak?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly how it happened. We were just probably sitting around and just talking, and said, "Hey, let's call ourselves the Sunset Skinheads." We're from Sunset Park. We kind of, I guess because when you grow up in a place like that, you kind of have an attitude. You realize that you come from something that's I think it kind of. Yeah, there was a reputation behind the neighborhood. And I think that's what, that's kind of why we came up with a name, and we wanted to kind of, Minus was a part of that early on. And so there's 5 of us, and then it just kept growing. We had my boy Karate Chris and some other people that were joining Ray, and it just started growing, just more guys just hanging out.
Did you paint these jackets?
Yeah, I did.
Because you do mention in the book that you had a real.
I was a resident artist. Yeah.
Yeah, you had a penchant, and you loved painting. Painting these jackets. Yeah.
Right.
So good stuff right there. Who is that? You in the middle?
I think it's me on the far right with the sitting bull. Yeah.
Right.
And it's the twins and Alex Sirocco. So yeah, tribal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we just this is what we did.
And I know there is a shot. Let me find it with Minus in it, I believe. It'll turn up. This is sort of those sort of early halcyon days?
That was a little bit after, actually, after the
Mhm.
group had split up. I started hanging out with the guys from Uptown, like Rico was down with the UBB, I think, and some of these guys like Hamster, the punk rocker, and Yurish, who's now like this high end like hair, hairdresser or something like that. And
Right.
yeah, so this was kind of going towards the early '90s, I think.
But
By
this,
that time, our group had kind of dispersed a little bit, which I wrote about, touched on in the
yeah.
book.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get ahead of ourselves, but
No,
thi-
that's cool.
this
This
is
was one of the
this
early ones, yeah.
this is the infamous Marco Rodriguez, right?
Minus,
Right? It's
yeah,
Marco. It's minus. You
yeah.
know.
He took us to his place in Bushwick, man, which I had never been to. His apartment, living with his mom, and it was the first time. Like he had this huge Puerto Rican flag on his wall, and I was like, wow, bro, this guy's something else, man. And he just, wherever you went with this guy, you just knew,
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna be okay. This guy's crazier than like half the city, so.
Yeah. Wherever I
And-
go with him, yeah, he's yeah. If there's any trouble, he's So one of the things that oh wait, I think he sent me that flyer. Let me see. Oh, this flyer. Oh yeah, I have this. Hold on. Really? This is it? I don't know. Hold on. Let me see. Let me see what he says. I think this is the exact flyer. What does he say? It's heading to the Mets game. Okay. This could be this is the flyer that Rocco from American Eagle sent me. Yeah. That's a look at that show, man.
That's some lineup.
It's
I
sure.
don't remember
I don't
who were there.
Yeah, this. I think this might be a little bit of a different show, but this is what a lineup. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 bands.
I'm telling you.
Yeah,
Iceman, look at that, man. That's crazy.
yeah.
Fit of anger.
Biohazard, Iceman, American Eagle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
Fit of
crazy.
Anger. Yeah. Going to, sort of the crew comes together. You're going out a lot, and you guys are mixing it up. How and why does violence play so heavy into this?
I think that when we became skinheads, we wanted to embrace all of for us, what we thought was the culture, I guess. We were listening to music that was aggressive, and you listen to bands like The Last Resort, or like all these oi bands, and they're
Sure.
talking about all the stuff that they were kind of a part of. You see this stuff in the books that we were reading, and so that was just something that we felt like we wanted to embrace. We were these rough kids coming from a rough neighborhood, and it's a strange thing you have when you grow up in an environment that is kind of like that, where it's kind of uh, it's a little bit dangerous, or you've got gangs, and your older brothers and sisters are on in these gangs. You think that's scary. When you get older, you want to be like them, in some cases. And I think there was a little bit of that. We kind of um, we just had this idea and this attitude that, hey, we'll be tougher than these other kids that used to run the neighborhood. These guys needed guns and stuff, but we're just these you know working class kids, with our Doc Marten boots and
Sure.
our music. That's all we need. And I think that's we wanted to we just embrace that whole mindset. That's
Is that a young Frankie too far on the left there?
Yes,
Is it? Is it?
it is. And
Wow.
Harry Sumi's there, and Eric. So you got three guys who are tattooing now. Alex Sirocco, who used to live on the Lower East Side, and he used to hang out with the guys from the Denied and stuff. Yeah, Herbie Mate is in there. Eric is, I think, a tattoo artist as well. And
Frankie says I was just about to send it. Well, I got it, I got it, Frankie. Look at that handsome guy. Look at that young, handsome guy, Frankie.
Right?
Wow. You go, Frankie.
He's a poppy.
Yeah. Fantastic. I think we'd be amiss to sort of not touch on, this place and its history. It comes up a lot, L'Amour's as being like really, man, you go to a show at L'Amour back then, you were really running the gauntlet. It was a scary, dangerous place. There was a lot of violence, and there was a lot of violence with your crew. Memories of this, or why did this become such a flashpoint at L'Amour's?
Well, look, we lived not too far from it. We lived, technically we could walk there, and it would take us like 30 minutes, but we would take the train. I think that for us, we enjoyed going to these places that were off the beaten path. And, because you remember like L'Amour's was in this like industrial place, and it was dark over there, and it was kind of mysterious. It was surrounded by a lot of warehouses. It was just this really, it was actually kind of like it kind of felt like you were in an apocalyptic setting.
Sure.
Right? Like
right out of the Warriors. It was
right,
like
exactly.
It was
they filmed the scene over there, at the train station.
Which only added to the excitement and allure of going to L'Amour's.
Yeah, turbo ACs. That's what it was. They kind of chased these guys, and so for us, we just, that was our comfort level. We love places like that for the same reason we like to go to the Bowery, because it was just, we knew that it was just going to be a certain type of people there. And luckily we got to know the bouncers. Those guys were kind of scary. They were huge. And so we got to know the bouncers there. I had only gone to like a handful of shows there, really. The other guys had been to a bunch, but I think I'd seen the Cro-Mags there and some other bands. And so it was just kind of like this. The downside about it is that it did attract guys coming from, across the river. The white power guys, they would come because it was an Italian neighborhood predominantly, and they figured they could get away with just hanging out, and that's where the tension came in. The fights, these guys showing up with, jackets with swastikas on them and Vikings painted on them, and it's kind of, they wound up getting the business for it,
Yeah.
Because now you've got all these groups of kids that are hanging out that are Black and Latino and that are in this area, and it didn't fly too well.
Ramon, good question. How did non-skinhead Latinos react to you guys outside hardcore punk shows? Like Latinos in the neighborhood, or just, people from like, dare I say, sort of like, civilian walks of life, like
the hip hop kids, the homeboys, as we used to call them,
a bunch of Hispanic skinheads. Like what?
Right.
Like,
well, so we knew everybody in the neighborhood. Fortunate, except for one crew of guys we loosely knew, but Minus knew this group of hip hop kids that would hang out on Fifth Avenue in front of a Chinese restaurant, and he introduced us to them. Mm-hmm. And these guys, they were kind of running some stuff over there. They were running a lot of game, and they were kind of like, and so now we're part of this group because of Minus. And I think that, I'm not sure if it was these guys or another group of guys, we just invited them to come down one time to CBGB, see what was happening. And they were like, what the heck is, you guys are so crazy. Like, what is this? Like, people jumping off the stage and slamming into each other, and like
crazy white boy shit.
Crazy white boys. So it kind of like, so after that, they kind of embraced us, but they also held us at arm's length. They were like, don't mess with these guys. These guys are on some next level stuff. Yeah. And it was good because we that was one less thing that we had to worry about. We knew that in Sunset Park, we have this crew of people that have our back,
Yeah.
Absolutely. There goes Frank Oxblood.
Yeah.
The guy with the glasses is Spike Sumi. He's a tattoo artist in San Juan right now.
In San Juan, Puerto
Luis.
Rico?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
A long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Did it when you started running with this crew, was sort of my sort of perception is sort of the like traditional kind of street gang type, like was sort of fading at this point, and like there was like a new breed coming in. Is that a fair sort of perception to have?
Yeah. So by the time we had formed our group in '87, like a lot of these older gangs that had crossed over from the 1970s, like in our neighborhood at least, a lot of them had gotten locked up. You didn't have gangs like the Savage Skulls in the Bronx anymore, or like, but what did happen was, I think around 88, 89, we got that wave of like gangster rap.
Yeah.
So now in New York City, you have the Decepticons, which was a big group. And that was definitely something we needed to worry about. And there was always something going on. There was always groups of them, either on the trains, or you'd run into them on the way to school.
They rode the trains, man.
Yes, they were very mobile.
Those guys I remember them on the trains all the time, man.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
and so
it was scary. You didn't want to run into them by yourself, you know.
Yeah, and so that was kind of like a big thing. We would see them at the beach. You know, I went to high school right up the block from Brighton Beach, and we would cut class and go there. And these guys were everywhere. And so that was the thing that kind of posed a threat. And I think that there was a lot of fights around that. There was a lot. Yeah, DMS guys. I mean, DMS were more like, they were skinheads, right? I mean, we got, but started
as a graffiti crew.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that was kind of, there was a lot of tension there. And I think it carried, when the high school I went to, there was just a lot of tension. There was a lot of, a lot of violence, a lot of, just kids coming to school packing because everybody was afraid. Everybody was kind of on edge,
Public school in Brooklyn.
Yeah, in New York City, you know how it is. It's like, we're going to send you to your zone school here. It's an hour away. Right. I mean, that's And so growing up like that, you're thinking you've got the Warriors on repeat. All right, I've got to make it.
Right.
Literally, I mean, I had to go to Stillwell Avenue to transfer from my train. So,
who were the heavy brawlers?
They were kind of like one of the last remnant gangs from the late 70s, early 80s.
Right. Out of Sunset Park? Out of Sunset Park?
Yeah. That's not their actual name. They were the HBs. I can't really say their name. I don't want to say it online, but they were older guys, man. They were older guys. They were, they had seen the worst of the neighborhood, and they had participated in a lot of the fighting and so somehow they kind of got through this, where the cops had rounded up a lot of these guys, locked them away, or, the guys died of ODs or whatever. And this gang was kind of like left, and we kind of got an introduction to them. We almost got on the wrong side of them, actually. And, because they were in our park listening to classic rock.
Classic rock. We can't have that.
Yeah, we're on the lower level one. It's four of us, and we're just hanging out, just looking at the nighttime in the city. You could see the whole city from Sunset Park, and we hear this music, and we're like, "What the heck? Like, there are metalheads in the park?" And so we're like, "Yo, let's go check it out." And we walk up to the center of the park, and we see these guys. They look like something out of a Western movie. They're wearing like furs on their leather jackets, leather hats, MC boots, and they're smoking doobies and drinking beers. And they look considerably older to us, guys with beards. And we kind of walk through the middle of them, and we realize, I'm not sure if this is something we want to do. We just kind of walk right through them like we own the park. I don't know what we were thinking. Anyway, one of the leaders of the crew recognized one of my friends. Because my friend's mom used to feed him when he had first come from Puerto Rico.
Wow.
And this is a guy who had done a combat jump in, I think, Grenada,
Wow.
So these guys would have killed us. They would have. And I look back and I just saw it was the providence of God. We would have,
Sure.
I would probably be still drinking something, just still getting my food through a straw or something like that if I was lucky enough. I mean, these guys were, they were not to be messed with. And we actually became good friends,
So you're not, certainly not to glorify violence or sort of, but it's important to sort of process the history, somewhat. I know, this place was also a big part of, what, where you guys were hanging out, and this, this is CB's sort of like in the heyday, not particularly a hardcore show. I think it's more of a punk show. And I do love this photo. What makes this photo is the kid that's sitting on the curb on the sidewalk there with the forlorn look on his face. Mark Yoshi from Generation Records.
That's right.
It's friggin' great. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. There's Mark Yoshi. It looks
I
like
think that's the Radix. That's the Radix in the
I was
background.
just about to say that. I think it's a Radix show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They always put on a good show.
Tell us about CB's and sort of that environment there, and I know, of course, CB's eventually was shut down because of violence. How did that play out there, and why?
Well, I don't know. The way I see it, I think as a 50-year-old washed up man.
Oh, stop.
I look back on it, and you get a bunch of teenagers in tight quarters and you're playing this music. I feel like, I think things were just bound to pop off. There's kind of like I think on every Sunday, I remember that there was kind of like this adrenaline, you get off the train, sometimes I'd get off on Prince Street and walk down, and you walk down Bleecker Street and you see everybody, right? It's almost like a wide, panorama of kids waiting online to get into the shows. And it kind of like, you're already kind of like antsy. You want to get inside, and you want to just, thump to the music, man. You want to, that sound check and all that stuff. It's just kind of sets you up. And I think maybe there's a little bit of that. Not everybody had the same intentions going there to kind of be like, unity and stuff like that. I think some of us had more other issues that we brought with us, and that's, I think, where the violence came from.
Yeah.
You want to kind of prove yourself. You want to just, and I think,
I know you're very honest in the book, talking about your personal demons and what you were going through. But were there times when the violence got ratcheted up, when you were part of perhaps some of the ultra violence that was happening? Did you just feel perhaps that you were kind of just being swept up in something that you sort of had no control over?
Yeah, I mean, I think that some days you're a spectator and you're just like, what the heck is going on? This thing just popped off so quickly. And I think that, and other times you're actively involved. And I think that was the thing that really, that I really struggled with. Part of the reason why I never had desire to come back to any shows after I became a Christian. I became religious, or whatever I started following, because I was just, I didn't know if there was still beef that was waiting for me out there, because we had ruffled some feathers and we had made some enemies. I think those are the kind of things that you process as you go later on in life. Hopefully you realize, for some of us, you realize that it wasn't a good thing. But some people are just still in it. They like it, and I think that's kind of the thing that That's part of the reason why I wrote the book. I
Yeah.
don't want to be a 55-year-old guy shaking my fist at the world and wanting to just kind of dare people. I don't want to live like that, man. You know, I'm raising 3 girls. You know, I don't want them to kind of go through what I went through. I don't know if that makes sense or if that went
Yes,
off
of course.
topic.
No, 100%. It makes sense. And just as we're going along here, it's been a minute, but I just want to mention the book is called Brooklyn Skinhead, a memoir, one man's journey from running the streets to running with Jesus. Lou Morales is
This is an older cover, but yeah.
Oh, this is, you know, I was wondering, that's a little bit different. The newer covers, one man's journey from fear and self-hatred to love and faith. But that said, the book is available on Amazon, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anybody,
it's self-published, yeah.
It's self-published and it is available on Amazon, and we will get to that. That said, we're heading towards taking a sponsor break, but I think we're gonna pivot a little bit and talk about some other stuff. In the book, you mentioned 1995 being quote unquote the hell year. Could you just explain to us what happened in 1995 and you know, was there a turning point for you?
Whew, that's a loaded question, but yeah, I mean, I feel like that was when everything kind of came to the surface. There was a lot of things that were kind of following me, things that I was trying to suppress that I wasn't handling. You know, after the group had broken up, I was still kind of like, I'm a skinhead. This is who I am. And I was always kind of, you know, kind of gravitating to different crews and stuff. But I also found that I was becoming very irrational and afraid. You know, I felt kind of just exposed because I didn't have my original crew, my friends. And I realized I was drinking heavier. I was going through things that I can only describe as spiritual. Like I was wrote in the book that I couldn't sleep at night. You know, I was having dreams, I was having nightmares, and so as a result, I started drinking heavier so I can sleep better. And so I was drinking 5-6 nights a week, you know, and just trying to, you know, looking for shows, looking for trouble, and you know, being in a relationship that was becoming very intense and, you know, abusive, and I realized that I was losing it. You know, I was just really trying to. I think what you were talking about, these personal demons, these things were kind of popping their ugly heads, and I was kind of grappling with all of it. You know, I didn't know it at the time, and probably didn't know it for a long time after, but it was catching up with me. I guess maybe the guilt of it and the fear and all the other stuff, every other emotion that you can imagine, I guess, was all coming to a head. And that's really when, you know, there was a fight downtown Manhattan, you know, kid got stabbed and I got blamed for it. And it was just an ugly, you know, it was symptomatic of everything that, you know, everything that I'd been involved in up to that point. And I realized that I couldn't outrun it, and I was becoming more irrational and angry and whatever you want to call it, you know. So, yeah,
it makes sense. And Gary says totally different perspective than the nostalgic way we normally look back at those days. Absolutely, and listen, man, you know, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? And that's why me and Lou are here today. You know, we're not interested in fantasy. You know, we're interested in just really coming straight from the heart with this stuff. And you have an incredible story. I want to use the right vernacular, but was there Was there like a born again moment? Did you have a moment of clarity, or was there one moment that sort of changed, where things changed for you?
Yeah, well, the way I like to put it is that God had been just following me through this whole process,
Mhm.
trying to get my attention, and He was getting it. I was, like I said, I was irrational. I'm trying to, I'm lashing out at my girlfriend, and I'm trying to kind of figure out why am I so agitated? Why am I so unreasonable? And during that time, I started reading literatures that somebody had given me a stack of these hokey Christian comic books.
Mhm.
And I had them in my closet. There was kind of like right under there with my pornography magazines and my vampire novels and all this other
Sure.
stuff that I had. I started digging them out. I'd come home from work. I was living in a studio apartment at this time, and it's still in Sunset Park. And I started reading through them, and I don't know, man. Like I just felt like I'm reading about things like the Book of Revelation and just about the cross, about this dude Jesus. Like, what? I didn't grow up in a religious home. I didn't know any of this stuff.
I guess I should ask: was there
But
any sort of religious upbringing at all, or was it just sort of I grew up in the neighborhood and there was imagery or
yeah,
there was Santeria in the neighborhood, or like
yeah.
was there any sort of coming up as a young person in your world at all?
It is all of the above, right? But I didn't grow up with any
Right.
one particular belief,
Sure.
right? I was baptized in the Catholic Church, but that didn't mean anything to me, right?
Yeah.
I didn't really start learning about. I didn't know what a Pentecostal person was.
Mhm.
My two of my best friends, their mom was a Pentecostal,
Right.
right? And they had come from a family of gangs.
Mm.
You know, when I met their sister, she was basically a month or two away from her deathbed. She died of HIV. She was a gang member. The older brother had become a Christian and all this other stuff. And that was my first introduction to like whatever, this Jesus or whatever it is that they believed. And I remember when I heard it as a young teenager, it struck a chord with me, but I didn't, I had this whole new life opening up. I'm hanging out with all this really cool people. I didn't want to, I was too young, I felt like, to give my life to religion or
Sure.
whatever it was they wanted to call it. But it revisited me about 6 or 7 years later, and I'm digging through these magazines and thinking something has to give in my life, and that's when I finally just, as I'm reading these books, I'm like, I gotta change my life, and I didn't know how to pray, man. I'd never been in a church, maybe once or twice, and I just read a silly little prayer at the back of one of these magazines. I was just like, God, I'm tired of this life. I'm tired of the things that I've been carrying. I'm tired of the things that I've done and the things that have been done to me. And I need a new life. I need a new change. If you're able to do this, then do it. And I'm on my knees in this little dark apartment. I've got like empty beer bottles and some dried vomit on the floor from weeks before, like because I've been throwing up and in my sleep. I was messed up. And after I said amen, it was just like I felt something happen. Like I can't explain it, bro. When I said amen, I opened my eyes. I just felt like something had been lifted off my shoulders. I know that there's a lot of people out there who, especially in our scene, who are with faith and things like that. We're like we've been taught to kind of rage against it and
Rage against all religion.
right. So for me, what I had found wasn't religion, but it was a relationship, and so yeah, that just that was for me, that was the turning point, and that was
Sure.
something that I will always remember. And I think that it was very shaky at first, and it took me a while to figure all this out, but that's it started me on this crazy journey. I didn't think nothing of it. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I want to just kind of the last thing before we take a break. I mean, and I think at this point we're going to pivot. But so, do you believe in the power of prayer?
Of course I do, man. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been this relationship, that be able to talk to God and to know that it doesn't matter. Yeah, like there's some hardcore guys found Krishna,
Krishna, others
and
found
I hear
Jesus.
that. I hear that, but I just, for me, this was, this is my story, and yeah, I believe in the power of prayer and the ability to know, even as we're known by this by God. I think that there's definitely this, for too long, the mindset has been, it's like kind of like a religion, right? We do things to be accepted, and but really, God just loves us and He wants to bring us close to Him, And I think that's been for me the game changer. So yeah, I do pray, and I love, we're involved in our church and things like that, and so yeah.
Prayer is
It's a powerful thing.
Powerful thing.
Yeah.
That said, let me take a sponsor break here. It's going to be a couple minutes, and let's we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about your missionary work, you traveling around the world, and we'll still find a way to tie it in with some New York hardcore and stuff like
That's
that.
it.
So I'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Definitely. All right. So, bye.
There you have it. Come on now. We're doing it here on the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Our guest today is Sunset Lou Morales. We're going to take a little bit of a break. Let's do some sponsor stuff. By the way, we're looking for a new sponsor. There's room on the boat for a new sponsor. So please consider that. Here's some promo stuff. Since 1992, Generation Records has been a mainstay of the New York metropolitan area music scene. Today, they offer a diverse selection of new and used rock, jazz, indie, hip-hop, punk, hardcore, metal, blues, soundtrack, and reggae LPs, as well as t-shirts, posters, and other merchandise. They buy used record collections and music memorabilia and will pay you top dollar for them. House calls made for large collections in the tri-state area. Call or email generationrecords@gmail.com and follow them on Facebook and Instagram.
Will that be cash or in debt?
Do you mean debit?
Yes. Sorry. Another eternally satisfied customer.
Yo, what's happening? I'm out here at one of our all-ages Sunday matinees on the Bowery. I hope that you are enjoying today's show. I just want to let you know that the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live needs your support. Please step up. There is a Patreon page that has a lot of unique program. Shows are announced there first. Lots of good stuff. There's a PayPal address right there on the screen if you want to make a contribution. There's also a super chat function. You could do that, but the bottom line is this show exists because of your support. We're going to be doing it for a long, long time. Thank you for all your support through the years. Back to the show.
Conditioned by indoctrination, conditioned by society. You're a victim of the digital age, a 21st century casualty. Open your eyes, you're losing control. Open your eyes, put down the phone. Conditioned by misinformation, it's just the media telling us lies. Decipher fiction from the truth, society's slow and tragic demise. Open your eyes, you're losing control. Open your eyes, put down the phone. Everyone's got their
And we're back. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Want to mention some upcoming shows. There is no show this Sunday because actually this Saturday we're playing up at Queenspin's Incendiary Device with RBNX, Crazy Eddie, Faded Line, Leave It Behind. Hey, roll call, upstate New York, come through. This is a great show. The next day, we're headlining down at Berlin. It's a Bowery Electric show around the corner at Berlin. So no show next Sunday, but we're back here a week from Sunday. We have our old pal Roger Moret from Agnostic Front talking about his new book, with time, the Roger Moret Archives. This is going to be a big one. 1 week from Sunday. Then a week after that, hey, this is like the book club here. You got a book? Come on the show and talk about it. You know, this is like the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live Book Club. You know, I've learned to read these things really fast. Got it. You know, it's I really bang them out now. Glennie Friedman's on Sunday, October 27th, talking about his new book, Fearless Vampire Killers, The Bad Brains Photographs. And then a week after that, Alex Kynan from Agnostic Front, and previously before that, Cause for Alarm. Steve Paul Carey, November 17th, from Marginal Man, An Artificial Peace. Yo, when I stepped on stage at Live Aid, DMC, our old pal DMC will be on the show. I've got lots to talk to about DMC. We worked together back in the day. I have the gold record on the wall. Looking forward to talking to our old friend DMC. And then, of course, the 350th episode with Thurston Moore of Sonic Youth, celebrating the release of his book, Sonic Youth Memoir. After that, this just was announced yesterday by popular demand. Carl Agell from Corrosion of Conformity, Leadfoot, Seizure, Lie Heavy, The Skull and Legions of Doom, and School of Violence will be on the show Wednesday, September 11th. And another fan favorite, you asked for it, you got it, Brian Slagle from Metal Blade Records will be on Sunday, December 15th. So all that and more. Also, I want to mention that I think I would be amiss. Hey, please follow the show. Pick up your communication device right now. Stone Films NYC. Please follow the show and me on Instagram. That said, let's bring our guest back on. Lou Morales, what's happening?
All right.
Hey, there you go.
Here we go.
Come on, let's go. Let's go for another round. But it's good. It's good. I'm really glad you're here, Lou. I really am. And you know, it's something a little bit different, and I appreciate that, man. I really do. You know, Chris. Chris Bozeth.
Oh my goodness, Chris. What's up, Chris?
Lou is the best of the old crew in terms of purity, character, class, and respect. Proud of you, brother, for rising above and standing strong for your calling while standing proud in this forum. All right. You know?
That is one of the original crew.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Chris.
Oh, that's Karate Chris, of course.
Yeah.
Karate Chris was in Marauder for
That's right.
On, right?
That's right.
That's right. Let's talk. One of the places you gravitated to early on was the Mission in Times Square, and it's a place that you're still somewhat involved in, correct?
Yeah. We've been there for quite a long time.
Tell us about what it was then, what it is now.
Well, we, I was looking for a church for a while, and for a better part of a year and a half, because I really, going to a traditional church. I started going to just an old school Pentecostal Spanish speaking church for a bit, and it just, for me, I loved it, and I didn't really understand church culture and things like that, and I just felt like some of the Spanish was hard for me to follow, and so I was just kind of actively looking, and of course one thing led to another, and I wound up in New York City, in Midtown, at this church where you had it was awesome, because you kind of came into this, what used to be a theater, now converted to a church, and you just had this amazing cross section of people in New York, man. You had, just you're seated next to a homeless guy on one side, and stockbroker on the other, or like we had a lot of people from theater coming in there. So there was just a lot of diversity, I guess, and that was the thing that was really cool, coming into a place that wasn't so traditional. It was just very, you just come as you are, and so that for me was amazing. and just being amongst other cultures and people. And early on I started gravitating towards kind of like these missions meetings that they were having, because they had been sending people out to different countries, and it wasn't like people with these three-piece suits and briefcases
Sure.
trying to peddle Bibles in like the middle of nowhere. It was just people going on the ground level to just work in different capacities in different places. And that's the thing that
and you early on got involved with missionary work, correct? Tell us, what was your first missionary work?
I did. So I went to a short-term trip to Colombia, to Medellin,
Wow.
which was interesting because for me, the only Colombians I really knew were these two brothers that were punk rockers back in the day, and one guy had Made in Medellin tattooed on his forehead, and these guys were always huffing glue. And I thought, sometimes you form ideas of people or a group of people based on the representatives that you know.
Sure.
And so,
Sure.
and of course, we all know about like the drug wars and things like that, the things that were happening in Colombia. And so we had this opportunity to go and to work alongside some people who were there and working in different capacities. So that was for me my first trip out of the U.S. And
Which in reading the book was very scary and exciting for you, for a guy that really never made it much out of the neighborhood, right?
Right. We think, like I wrote in the book, we think we're citizens of the world because we went all the way to the other side of Queens.
Yeah, I took the train to Coney Island.
I had to take 3 chances, man. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I fly to this foreign country. I mean, the Spanish, I'm a Puerto Rican kid from the street. I don't speak. So this lady at the desk is trying to direct me, and I'm like, she may as well have been speaking German. I was like, what? Because Spanish was different.
She was speaking Spanish, but it wasn't the New York City Spanish that we were used to.
It wasn't what we were speaking in Tompkins Square Park,
Sure.
And
Sure.
so, I got through that, and I'm with the team, and it was great. I was with one of the elders of our church who was a former biker, and got to know his story. And during that 1 week, we got to go to one of the most notorious prisons in the late 80s, early 90s. I didn't know this until years later, that there was an average of 2 to 3 homicides a day there. There were guys that were being contracted to kill prison guards. There was a strike there where the prison guards walked off the job because it was so dangerous. And so we go in with this little guy who's like this former military dude who's a pastor, and he starts a church block there and a prayer group, and within months, all the violence is done. He's got a church established in this place, and that's what we came into. I was able to share my story a little bit, and then we did the thing that was probably most impactful for me was going to the streets at night and working with the street kids. That was the thing that kind of just broke me. It broke me.
And I assume just from obviously from your background and your upbringing, you really connected with young people and felt that you had something to offer just from your life experience.
Yeah, and I think it wasn't too big of a leap to be able to kind of reach out to these kids and just hug them and just hang with them, sit on the street with them and just let them know that they're loved, and that there could be a better way. The guys that we went to help have since started a bakery there and a program for drug addicts and stuff. They've been doing it for 20 plus years. But it all has to start somewhere, right? You have to make that initial contact with somebody or somebody's, and that's the thing that I felt like was a game changer in my life, and it kind of changed the way I viewed the world and what I wanted to do with my life.
That was your initial sort of missionary excursion, but I know you went out on a lot of missions. Is that proper to say? Missionary?
Yeah,
work?
we call it mission trips. Yeah,
missions.
Yeah.
Missionary. But I know one real big one was Kosovo, and you were over there when it was really war torn. It sounded like a really incredibly dangerous yet fulfilling and exhilarating experience. Could you tell us about your time in Kosovo?
So I lived there for about 10 months. It felt like 10 years, man. We got there. I was originally just supposed to be working on the border with refugees. And what happened was immediately after we stopped bombing, the Americans had a bombing campaign to kick Milosevic's forces out.
Right.
Immediately after we stopped, everybody poured back in. It was like one of the fastest, one of the quickest refugee returns in any conflict in the last, however many years. Everybody just went right back in. So there was nobody to work with on the border. We went straight in. We went straight into Kosovo, and that was crazy. That was I was kind of like, this is not what I signed up for, but I went in, and we worked with a local church there in a city that was one of the last towns before you go into Albania, and beautiful place. But when you get there, there's just a lot of devastation and destruction. You could hear mines going off.
Sure.
At night, it's the machine gun fire, people on their roofs celebrating with their AKs, which is still unnerving because you don't know, is there something popping off or
is somebody just exuberant that
it was every night, bro, for 10 months. I was like, I never slept so terrible. But it was people were rejoicing. They were happy. They were happy that the Americans were there, and so we just started working with a local church. It's a Muslim majority there, so there were challenges, obviously, for us to be able to share, the gospel and the love of God with some of these kids. But it was very, I got engaged there to my wife, and who she's now my wife. We got engaged there on a blacked out street in Pristina, and but while we were there, we kind of did everything. We traveled a lot. We we kind of seen a lot of the good, the bad, and the ugly there. Got to make really good friends. The people were very hospitable and very helpful. I think when you do this kind of a work, when you live, cross culturally like this, you realize how much grace is given to people who are not from a particular place. You realize it maybe after the fact that, man, I'm just some clueless American idiot who just kind of says whatever I think, and just, and there's a lot of people have a lot of grace. There's this, I think that's probably been one of my biggest lessons, but that was definitely, it was a stretching experience, I wrote about in the book. I almost got my head blown off in a robbery there, and
I was going to ask you, what was your scariest situation?
Yeah.
And obviously, you tell in the book of this incredible story when they basically bang down your front door and at gunpoint. Like, that's a scary thing.
Yeah. So 3 a.m, these guys, they show up at the church rectory or whatever you want to call it. And I just happened to be staying there with 2 of the pastors and one of the young boys. And we were just kind of resting there. And 3 a.m, we hear a knock at the door. And of course, I wake up, because I'm a light sleeper. And I'm just thinking maybe it's another kid who was hanging out in the neighborhood, didn't want to go home. So I open the door and these guys, like 3 or 4 guys with ski masks and guns come in, so I'm on the floor automatically, and I've got this guy's got a gun to the base of my skull, and I'm just thinking, this is it. We're going to die. And then they get out the duct tape, and, so they basically tape my hands, behind my back. They tape my eyes, my mouth. And I'm thinking, this is going from bad to worse. This is kind of like you think about the things that you've read about growing up, these gangland killings in the basement of a bodega, so this is it. I'm confessing my sins and other people's sins because I'm like ready to. I'm gonna go. This guy's gonna blow my head off. And we came. Luckily, we had a. Every crew has got one guy who's like waiting to kind of have an excuse to hurt somebody.
Sure.
And so one of the guys would go from room to room, come into the room where I was, kick me in the side, curse at me in English, go to another room, and he was kind of. Anyway, they're trying to find out where the money is. You know, Americans that come and brought aid, you know, to help the church to do
Sure.
things like food distributions and stuff like that.
There's got to be money here somewhere.
There's got to, and there was. There was a good amount of it. And so this guy's questioning him. He's got a silencer. I didn't know this until afterwards. And I'm just listening, you know, because the door is open. I'm like, are there any trucks out there, the UN? Or it's so quiet outside on the street. And I'm like, we're doomed. Anyway, this guy is frustrated. This one guy, I could hear him, you know, and I could sense him. And about a week before, she wasn't my wife then, but she had went, and the pastor asked for her to bring back a goldfish. They needed goldfish for their office. I don't know why, but they wanted goldfish. And this is, you know, to me, the providence of God. The
Lord works in mysterious ways, right?
So they've got a goldfish in the office. The place is like a frat house, a bunch of young guys. And so I didn't know this until afterwards, but this guy who's all pent up, he's like going for room. And then finally he just sticks his hand in the goldfish tank, takes the goldfish out, and he steps on them. Oof. And then it's like this blanket came over everything. And you could just feel the tension subside. You know, I'm there sweating, I'm shivering, I'm taped up, but it just sensed that something had changed, something had shifted. And then it was just like they came for what they wanted, they were gone. We were able to get out of the tape. You know, because I was sweating. I could just pull my hands out by that point. And yeah, so that was probably the scariest moment in my entire life.
I think that qualifies. I think that really qualifies. I want to mention, for those watching in the tri-state area, Lou is doing a book event at our sponsor Generation Records this Saturday, October 12th from 1 to 3. Lou will be down there signing copies. Come on down, pick up a copy, see a couple friends. I'm going to try to get down there before we have to go upstate and play. So, but yeah, that's happening this Saturday. What else do I want to? One thing,
I've only been able to get, like, I have probably around. I've probably got about 20 copies on hand. I ordered another batch. I'm hoping to get it by Saturday, but if not, you know, since I'm in the air, I can always, you know.
Yep.
But if you have your own book, you know, just bring it.
If you have your own book, bring it.
It takes longer to get them printed in batches than it does to buy them on Amazon, like the next day delivery.
Right. That's sort of the downside to doing print as you go on Amazon. Is that if you need a grip of them, it's a little tough to get.
It takes a couple of weeks, yeah.
But then again, you know, you don't end up with you don't end up with boxes of books in your closet.
Right.
So
that happened to a friend of mine.
Yeah. So that's another thing is as the book was winding down and, you know, talking about your mission work and this and that, I'm going, okay, you know, I get it. And then 9/11 happens, and you talk about it in your book, and that was really, really incredible. You know, you worked at 7 World Trade Center on that fateful day, correct?
Yeah.
And
I was on the 35th floor, yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, thankfully, you know, when it started happening, you got out, and but to have been down there and really in one of the buildings and witnessed the whole thing must have been really. I mean, I saw it happen, but I wasn't down there. You know, I saw it. I was 20 blocks up or what have you. But could you give us some perspective on that faithful day and how your faith carried you through?
Yeah. So, you know, I work for Citigroup as a graphic designer, and I was originally in Park Avenue, and I ran afoul of somebody, and they just sent me down there to work, and kind of like an exile. I was there for literally 2 weeks, actually. I just got down there, and so that particular day, we were actually planning a missions trip to Pakistan. I had a month before, so we were kind of like mentally gearing up to go to this. And then so that day I'm checking in, checking my emails, and then of course, you hear the first what sounded like I don't know, like an air conditioning unit starting up or something, because these buildings are soundproof, right?
Yeah.
So, and we were right across. We were not on the official property. We didn't feel a tremor, but we heard the noise. And our creative director, who was at the first bombing in '93, comes out of her office. She's like, "What the heck was that?" I'm like, I don't know. Like, this is New York. Then our IT guy, who's by the window, he's like, "Guys, you got to check this out." We go to the window. We look up, and there's like fire and stuff just coming down the side of the building. So we just immediately we vacated the 35th floor. I was trying to call my wife on the phone. I couldn't remember my home phone number. Go down, we're going down the steps, and people are saying, "Oh, it was a plane and stuff," and you're thinking that it was just kind of like one of these little Cessnas or something like that. You don't realize how big the buildings are, right? And so by the time we got down to the lobby and the escalators, the second plane hit, and that one we felt. And we could see on the other side of the glass all of the, the personnel just kind of like trying to figure out what the heck is going on. They're just kind of back up against the glass and like looking up, Port Authority police. That's where the bridge that connected our two buildings went over. There used to be a bridge there that connected the properties.
I remember that. Yeah.
So, so I just kind of got, we vacated. I think we were on West Street or something like that. I can't remember what, because that downtown changed so much with the buildings and stuff. But we got out, and I was able to make a phone call to my wife, let her know I'm okay. So she just went up to Sunset Park and was watching from up there what was going on. And
which is kind of Sunset Park's kind of the high ground in
yeah.
a way. There's that one part of Sunset Park where you have this view straight into the city.
Oh yeah. You could see the city. You could see downtown,
Sure.
the F train. You can see Newark Airport. Everything, Jersey City.
Mm-hmm.
So so I just kind of went around the corner. I think it was Church Street or something like that, and with a coworker, and we're kind of like watching. This is like, there's no time elapsed. I make the phone call, I come around, we're hanging out on this corner. There's like emergency personnel, and there's stuff on the street, like debris, and then like we start seeing people jumping out of the buildings, and so we're just like, what the heck, he's a Catholic, he's praying, and I'm praying. I'm like, God, what, please, help these people. And probably a minute and a half after that, there's like these firefighters that run towards us and say, get out of here, guys. This thing's gonna, this thing's might blow or whatever. And so we booked it, and I just found myself on Greenwich Street. I started walking up towards our other Citigroup building. As I'm walking up, each street corner is just filled with people. There's the daycare down there that they've evacuated. There's kids on the street. It was mayhem. And
it was Armageddon.
Yes, and so as I'm making my way up, you can see the people on the street. I'm passing them. They're just watching this whole thing, and you can tell, that there are people still jumping out of the buildings because of their expressions. And I'm like, I can't look back. I cannot look at this again. So I just kept walking. I wound up at the Citigroup building in Tribeca, and I went to West Street from there, and that's when the first building came down. And there's like nothing. What are you going to do? Like, all this chaos is happening. So I just kind of left. I went over the Canal Street Bridge and walked all the way uptown to my church, because I knew the trains weren't running. I'm not going to get home. And I didn't want to be a spectator. It was just, it was too much. So, and I wound up at church and just talking with people who, one guy was a security guard up on one of the buildings, and he just
he went down for a cup of coffee.
Yeah, he went down for like a blueberry muffin or something like that, and then he couldn't get back up. So just crazy stories. Everybody's got a story from that day, but that was
and I can certainly relate. And our paths, almost crossed that day. I was down there not far, and when it first started happening, I kind of very quickly figured out what was going on and went and got my video camera, right?
Wow.
Which was in the neighborhood. And I had my camera and I was heading downtown and I was going to document this event. I had it because even right now, I mean, God forbid, I have a breakout, a breakout pack in case there's something happens. I have a camera that's fully charged with batteries, I, as a filmmaker, as a documentary filmmaker,
of course.
That's something that, like, when Hurricane Sandy happened, I'm ready for this thing. So same thing. I grabbed the camera and I started heading downtown, and I very much related to what you said in the book. Quote, I walked away and I didn't want to look back at the people jumping. And I started heading downtown and I have my eye in the lens and I'm looking and I'm seeing things coming off the building. I thought it was debris. And soon after realized, sadly, tragically, those are people jumping off the building. And I really related to what you said because something said to me, there was a voice who spoke to me, said, you don't want to do this. You do not want to go down into this. This is not something that you want to witness. And even though I had the camera, and even though, I wanted to document, and even I had a perception that this is important stuff, I turned around and I walked away. I didn't look back. And to this day, I'm so glad that I did that. And that I just walked away from it. I just didn't. I didn't want to carry that imagery with me for my life. I didn't want to.
Yeah. Of course.
Heavy stuff.
That was terrible.
Yeah. So that said, thank you, Chris. Life. Yeah. Hats off to Drew. Hats off for Drew for conducting this humanistic interview tied to young hardcore roots, spiritual growth, and individual humanity. Life after silly New York hardcore tough guys. That said, let's do this. Let me take a quick break, right? A quick sponsor break, and let's come back and we'll take some questions from around the world and for a little bit more. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. That's right. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Our guest today, Sunset Lou Morales, talking about his book, Brooklyn Skinhead, and it is available on Amazon. Pick it up. Great book. And of course, there is a book event going on at Generation Records on Saturday. We are sponsored by Blah, 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 and the Texas Silver Rush. They're a jewelry design firm and boutique store located in the birthplace of the Texas country music scene in Fredericksburg, Texas. They specialize in work with musicians in all music genres, design and create unique one-off pieces, as well as to style them for stage, album covers, promo photos, and social media exposure. Their client list includes Rock and Roll Hall of Famers Greg Rolle, Ringo Starr, and of course, Agnostic Front. Information and online sales will be taken at their Facebook and Instagram pages, and of course, www.texassilverrush.com. Last but not least, 126 Hardcore Clothing is a streetwear brand for restless individuals who don't compromise. They're about being positive, spontaneous, and true to yourself for years. They experimented with several printing methods and materials and collaborated with a large number of designers and illustrators, always giving room for fresh perspectives while retaining the hardcore attitude. Get in touch with them and ramp up your game at www.126clothing.com. Hey, if you have questions for our guest, please post them now. We're going to take some questions from around the world. First, I want to mention what's some events that are going on, starting with this Saturday up at Queen's Pins. Yes, it is a donation, a food clothing drive. We, Incendiary Device. Why does that name seem so foreign to me? Are playing outside of the 5 boroughs of New York City. Groundbreaking. RBNX ID, Crazy Eddie, Faded Line, Leave It Behind, Prize Fighter. Roll call, upstate New York. Come on out. It's going to be a great show. The next day, we are down at Berlin at 25 Avenue Way. It is part of the Back to the New York Hardcore Roots series. Free all ages Sunday matinee. Please note, this one is not at the Bowery Electric. It is around the corner at Berlin. Hey, Sunday, October 20th, just want to call to your attention, there is a memorial in memory of Paul Cripple from Reagan Youth at the Old Day 7, which is Niagara, 112 Avenue A. Danny Lilker's book event is at Generation Records on October 25th, and we all, including you are invited. Welcome to come out and celebrate Danny's 60th birthday at Peculiar Pub, which is walking distance from Generation Records. Sunday, November 10th at Berlin as well. Back to the New York Hardcore Roots series with Kings Never Die. It is their record release show, 45 adapters, Tree, Redwoods, and Neck Scars. Yo, ID with Brass Knuckle Brigade featuring former members of Billy Club Sandwich, Dead Blow Hammer, and more are up at Cherry Street Station in Wallingford, New York. That is November 16th. Come on now, Lori Dorn's art show is out at the Calling Bell on November 17th. Saturday, December 7th, I will be moderating the Vinny Stigma and Howie Abrams book event at Bridge 9 Records. There will be some more information coming in on this very special event soon. And then the very next day, I am moderating Roger Moret's book event at Generation Records on Sunday, December 8th. ID is playing Our Wicked Lady with Butterbrain, Ancient Domains, which is basically Super Touch with Matt from Bold Singing and Ill Raised. It is a free show Friday. It is 21 and plus, Friday, December 13th. And then the big banger, the Holiday Slamboree, is Sunday, December 22nd. And that is a Women of the Pit coat drive. So lots going on. Get up, get out, make it happen. Put your shoes and socks on, kids. It's all happening right around the corner. Please, any questions you have for our guest, post them up. Don't be shy. Let them fly. Let's go. Let's bring our guest back. Sunset Lou Morales. Hey, man.
Hey.
Let's see. Okay. Good question. Here we go. Let's start. Thank you. Thank you, Pat. That's a good one, man. I like that. Pat Baldwin asks, are there any positive elements of skinhead subculture you still retain?
I think that there are things like loyalty and just being authentic. I think with the people around you, and not trying to like put up a facade. I think that even in the church, it's a tough thing because anything in our culture, we want to put our best face forward and not look like we're struggling or, and I think that those are some of the things that I've kind of taken away. And I think also, and like, so for me, it was both the skinhead and the hardcore culture, right? In one, it was, so I think that there were certain things from the punk scene that stuck with me. And I shared this, kind of in another podcast where, this idea that, what are we living for? Like this American dream where we want to save up to get this big house in the middle of nowhere and just have, 3 cars and a 3-car garage and not be touched by anything. And I don't see that, for me, that's not something that I aspire to, like not even in the Gospels. I think that there is a call to kind of sail a little further away from the shore, sometimes into the unknown. And I think that my life in the hardcore scene and being a skinhead, there was a lot of that. Like there was a lot of unknowns. And I think, but I think also that there were, the prophets of that generation, the people that spoke to things that were happening, right? Like I'll put on, X-Ray Specs occasion and you listen to some of their music and you're like, oh my goodness, like they really had a handle on like, this is where we're heading. That we don't do something, something's got to change, right? Something's got to give. This is, And I think that those can be prophetic voices, to like and exposing, even some of the symptoms of our society and stuff. And I think those are the kind of things that I've kind of retained for myself, the just not to be status quo, and not to, and I've kind of shared that with my kids as well, that, to not conform. And I think, and when I say that, I don't mean it in the punk rock sense where it's like we're just gonna smash everything and heck with everything, right? Like
in the anarchistic sense, right?
No, I think it's when it comes to things like we've always taught our girls. I'm raised 3 girls, and 3 times we've had to do.
You were blessed with 3 girls. Those are the cards that the Lord handed you. You were blessed with 3 girls.
Right. And it's painful because when they're younger, you have to deal with the mean girl syndrome, right? And so we had always taught our girls that that they are to be the friend to the kid that doesn't have a friend, and it's still painful to watch, but and I've watched them grow through that. Why? Because I know what that felt like, and I didn't want them to kind of, as hard as it was to watch them go through it, it's also on this side of it, they're like 18, 19 and 21, to see how they've turned out and how they have reciprocated and been like, you know what, like they have a heart for people, they're not like self-focused or self-absorbed,
Good stuff. And it sounds like they grew up in a home with a lot of love.
Yeah.
Just that's what it is, man. They were blessed. They grew up in a home with a lot of love.
Yeah.
It's good stuff, man.
Yeah, I'm fortunate that they didn't know the other side of me.
But it's part of your story, man, and it's important. That there's a validity to it. It's what brought you here. It was part of your journey. It's what brought you here, and it's obviously an important journey. Do you feel like where you're at now? Are you more thirsty for God than ever before? I mean, is there an ebb and a flow to your faith?
Yeah, I think that we go through seasons. It's and I think that our season of coming to midlife and our kids kind of now taking care of themselves, I think that there are conversations that my wife have about this second part of our lives, the things that we want to do and the things that we want to see, even like dreams that we have and desires. I think that those are important things to kind of keep, stoking the fire on. But of course, like human life it's always hills and valleys, right? I mean, you always have these seasons where you're just grinding it out and you're just trying to pay bills and trying to, keep your head on, trying to get out of bed, put your shoes on one foot at a time. And then there are times where it's just these kind of miracle moments or these kind of amazing things. Sure. It's always it's never really,
right. It can't be, so I guess, it can't be euphoria all the time.
right. Like Instagram would have you believe, like, taking selfies, with my, whatever at a cafe or in.
Good one. Ramon asks, last show you went to, and I think I know it because I saw you there, right?
That was a banger.
The last show you went to. Go ahead.
Oh my goodness. I went to the Agnostic Front, CMI, and Slapshot show. Demise also played. That was at the Brooklyn
Monarch.
The Brooklyn. Yeah, that was crazy, man. It was really cool.
Yeah. Do you feel like when you see a band like CMI, I mean, do you still inherently do you still feel it like you did as a younger person, like just the music aspect of it? Do you still feel connected to it?
I took a long break from the music. Yeah. Like literally decades.
But you're back, man. You're back.
And I listen, I've got my New York hardcore playlist for the gym and stuff. And, because, because I just kind of like, I'll listen to it in the car and stuff. But I don't have the same, I love the energy and I love the sound. And I didn't really realize how different it was Because most kids, even my kids, my youngest daughter who likes metal, like German metal and stuff, she's like,
Yeah.
Dad, can you turn that off? Like, I'm like, seriously? You're listening to, whatever, so I still, I do like listen. I've been listening to a lot of ska lately and just kind of, just getting back in touch with that. But I don't have those same, like I don't have that, obviously that same angst or like me looking for a solution or something to kind of, I think that hole has been filled. I just love the music. I honestly didn't realize, how much a part of me that was,
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to go out and smash windows, but I'm just kind of like, oh man.
Yeah. And you know what? Hopefully we'll see you out there some more, man. And
yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna reach out and let you know. You gotta, know, it's like
would love to connect.
Yeah, come through and there's some good stuff out there, man. We're doing free all ages Sunday matinees, and it has the spirit in a lot of ways of the old CB's matinee. It's like, it's not, some things are not the same, but it has that spirit of community and culture
right
that drew us as young people to the scene. Well, there's no point in that one. Here, I'll answer this. Joseph K says, what was the craziest brawl involving Hector and Edwin? Those guys were like two Mike Tysons. Let's just say, Joseph, there were crazy brawls, and let's leave it at that. Because there's no sense in getting into the idiosyncrasies and who got hurt, and there's no point in that at this stage of the game, man. Ramon asked, do you still have your boots from back in the day?
No, man. I mean, we would walk our boots until they had till the soles split, and like they were completely useless, man. It's just I just bought a pair. I just bought a pair of vegan leather ones that are nice.
All right.
So
he's back.
I'm not gonna wear braces though, man. That's just like
yeah.
I don't want to look that old.
Now, and let's not. This isn't necessarily. Let's not necessarily attach this to violence. But Lou, any crazy show memories from those early days? Like any shows that you just remember just being just fantastic and like the euphoria of bringing of everyone being together. Any shows all these years later still stand out?
There is, but it isn't like the New York hardcore stuff. I think that I must have been about 14 or 15. We went to a show, I think it was Beirut or something like that, downtown Beirut, and it was the Scofflaws and the Press.
All right. Okay.
So you had the ska, and I had never been to a ska show, right? So you're in this bar, and you're like, you could feel the floor moving, and it's just like this really great music, and I'm like, what the heck? And then you got the Press, they did, what was it? Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting. That was a crazy show. That was a really good show. Everybody was dressed up really nice, and it was just kind of like, to my memory, no fights broke out. It was just this kind of like, it was good music, good rock and roll, and just a lot of just pogo and people just having a great time.
The press is still around.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Astoria Lou says, when you saw the twins in the pit, you stayed clear of them. LOL. Yeah. Well, Frankie Too Far says, come out to the Templars in December.
Yeah, brother.
There you go. Let me see. There's a couple. You know what? Let's go here. Any memories from the early days of Marauder with Minus on vocals, and then Jorge taking over? Any early? I know Marauder was sort of like, Marauder was the sort of like the fan favorite, the borough favorite. I ended up working with them, at a certain point. Maybe he's looking for an early Marauder Minus, type of thing.
I can't remember. I may have seen them once, but I remember that I didn't really like them too much. Believe it or not.
Too metal for you.
Too metal for me. And so and I do remember that there was always like kind of drama with these guys. Nobody was getting along, and it was just kind of like. But I think maybe I've seen one show with them, if that. And then I think shortly after that, I kind of left the scene. Because I know that they were playing for a while into the 90s or something like that. And but I'd been gone by then.
Yeah.
But I did see Minus at that show back in May or June,
Yeah.
and I hadn't seen him in 30 years,
Wow.
man. And that to me
how was that?
Oh my gosh, it was just very emotional, very, gosh, man. You know, that was I felt like I'd come full circle, man, when I saw him. And it was awesome.
Yeah, he's a
good guy.
He's a character, you know, and taught me a bunch of things back in the day when he was working for Biohazard, and I kind of came on board, and he kind of showed me how to survive out on the road. So he always has a special place in my heart, you know, because I never lived on a bus. I never traveled from city to city. I didn't know how, you know, and he always has a special, did Minus recognize you? Paulie asks.
Yeah, of course he, you know, we just kind of stared at each other for a second, and I just, you know, I was just like, oh my gosh. And when we parted ways that night, it was a very long, you know, he gave me a really long hug and just kind of, you know, and just, it was very special. You know, I sent him a copy of the book in Florida. I hope I get to see him again, you know.
Yeah, he comes up now and then, you know, when they have their get-togethers, those guys, you know, he's
a real deal, man.
Yeah, always has been. Let me just say that the book is Brooklyn Skinhead, a memoir. It is available on Amazon, and the author Lou Morales is with us today. In wrapping it up, Lou, what does the future hold? Not just for the book, but for you, like looking down the road a little bit.
I don't know. You know, me and my wife we've been talking about, you know, maybe getting, you know, studying counseling and stuff like that. And maybe working with at-risk youth. I feel like we still have, I think, an even bigger problem on our hands with the young people in our country. And so I don't know. My heart is still for the youth, you know, and so I'm not sure what that's going to look like. Right now, we're just kind of in this season that's been very hectic and active, and we're trying to find a little bit of a space so we can process and say, okay, what's our plan of attack? How are we going to do this?
Sure.
Because definitely, I think, you know, now that we're living in a space and a time where it's easier to address things like mental health, I think it's very valid. Something that's for us, at least, we want to figure out how to pursue and work towards, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I just once again, one more time, want to remind anybody that's in the tri-state area that Down at Generation Records on there you go. Down at Generation Records on Saturday. Lou will be down there signing the book, and then you could go to Generation Records, and then you know you could get in the car and head up to upstate New York to see us play. So
road trip day.
You could do both. You could do both. Yeah. So thanks a lot, Lou. That was great, and you know, I was real honored to have you on the show, man. I was really looking forward to it, and really enjoyed you know, talking to you and getting to know you a little bit. Is there anybody you want to thank? Is there anybody you want to shout out?
Yeah. Well, thank you, man. Thank you for having me on. And I know it was a bit of a departure from, you know, I saw the one with CMI. I kind of like that one. You know, I was just kind of interested in hearing this guy talk, you know, because I'd only seen him on stage, Adam Voss. So I just want to see what he was like, you know, just kind of just talk, you know, so it was actually really good.
Thank you.
But yeah, I just want to give a shout out to, like, you know, guys like Rocco, you know, who, you know, used to hang out with Rocco, man. I mean, he used to pull up in his car in his old 4-door, I think it was an Impala.
You know, I was, you know, I've been talking to Rocco because we're talking about American Eagle doing a show, and I'm trying to put that together and do something. And then I'm reading your book, and you say, well, one of our favorite bands was American Eagle, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah. We used to hang out all the time, man. I mean, Yeah, just Chris, Karate Chris, and Ray. Ray from Ray was another Sunset Skinhead guy, and
Sure.
Stacy, and just thinking about Sharon passed away, and Edwin. They were part of our original crew, and Hector,
Sure.
who's in Puerto Rico, and Fat Rich, and yeah, just all the people that I've crossed paths with, and just kind of like reached out over the years, and who've supported the book, and who've kind of like advertised it on their own Instagram accounts. Thank you so much for the support and the love, and for reading the book, and yeah, and everybody who came on today, man. Thanks, guys.
Great.
What an honor.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. God bless you, and let's talk soon.
God bless you too, man. Hope to see you at the show soon. I would love to see you in person. We can talk.
You will. You will.
Just don't bring any grenades, all right? I don't want to be a part of that.
And listen, I'm gonna be on you to come out to one of our shows and come out. It's a new world out there, man. And we'd love to see you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
All right, take care, Lou.
All right, God bless.
Right,
bye.
There you have it. Hey, Hoya, where you been? Hey, wait a second. Hey.
Oh, yeah!
Look who's just look at
I know that guy.
I'm saying goodbye, and this kid shows up. Come on, man.
Bro, you're on Ecuador time, bro. What's up?
That's great, man.
God bless, Hoya. I'm always following you, brother. Talk to you guys later.
I'll talk to you. Bye. Hey, Hoya, better late than never, man. We had a great show today. Our guest was Lou Morales. Great book, little bit different of a show today. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to do something a little bit different. Because listen, I could talk hardcore until the cows come home. So having someone on the show like Lou gives me the opportunity to mix it up a little bit and to step up a little bit. And I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate you watching the show and supporting the show. Please consider joining Patreon, or there's a PayPal address there. The show needs your support now more so than ever. We're also there's room on the sponsorship boat. So if you're looking to join the Texas Silver Rush and DTFM and Generation Records, 126 Hardcore Clothing and Mad Vintage, there's room on the boat. So please reach out. I'm very accessible. I'm an accessible guy, So yeah, thank you, Pat. It was a great one. Hey, Ack. What's up, Ack? Please, Ack, don't tell me aren't you in Tallahassee, right in the path of this oncoming hurricane? Joe and Mandy Ackerman. Is Tallahassee like right there, I believe? So I hope you're closing the shutters. And Paulie, I know you're down there in Florida. So I hope everybody's okay. Is that right? Nice, calm, and relaxed show. Just ordered the book immediately. Well, it's nice when the system works. It's nice when there's cause and effect when we do these things. So that said, we'll be back with Roger and his book a week from Sunday. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. It was a good show. But then again, that's what we do. We're in the business of doing good shows at this stage of the game. Hey, I hope if you're in the upstate area, you come through on Saturday. We are playing ID with RBNX, Crazy Eddie, Faded Line, Leave It Behind, and Prize Fighter. The show starts at 5. It's for a good cause. It's a very cool venue. And then the next day, this Sunday, we're headlining down at Berlin with Winterwolf, Midnight Foolishness, The Phoenix Within, and Gunk. So please come out and support these muy importante events. Thank you, GSX. Is that right, Ak? We're north of the real danger, more Tampa area I'm worried about. Cheers, brother. Absolutely. So that said. All right. Good. we came, mission accomplished, right? Mission accomplished. Thanks a lot, everybody. I still love doing this show. I appreciate so much that we have this great worldwide audience and this community. And I will see you soon. Until next time. Do good things and good things will come to you.
Conditioned by indoctrination, conditioned by society.